Imagine being expelled from a political party by your own uncle's lieutenants. Imagine growing up in the same house as the president, serving his government as an intelligence operative, carrying his blood in your veins, and still being thrown out because you refuse to say yes to one agenda. That is exactly what just happened in Zimbabwe. And it should terrify everyone watching. ZANU PF has always been a party that demands loyalty. Not ordinary loyalty, total loyalty. The kind that asks you to set aside your personal convictions, your private concerns, your independent judgment, and simply align. But there was always an unspoken understanding inside the party that certain people were protected, that blood ties meant something, that intelligence backgrounds created a layer of security that ordinary members did not have. Emmerson Mnangagwa had both. The blood of Emmerson Mnangagwa runs through his family. He lived with the man who is now president. He served Zimbabwe's most secretive and most feared institution, the Central Intelligence Organization. And none of it saved him. His name is Emmerson Mnangagwa, nephew of President Emmerson Mnangagwa, former CIO agent. A man whose biography reads like the ultimate ZANU PF insider. A man who, by every conventional calculation of Zimbabwean politics, should have been untouchable. He is not untouchable anymore. Mnangagwa has been formally expelled from ZANU PF, removed, cast out. The party that his family blood is woven into has looked at him and said, "You no longer belong here." And the reason is as revealing as it is chilling. He would not support the 2030 agenda. Now, if that phrase means nothing to you yet, let us be very clear about what it means. President Mnangagwa is constitutionally supposed to leave office in 2028. That is what Zimbabwe's 2013 constitution says. That is the legal boundary. That is the democratic limit. The 2030 agenda is the drive whispered about, debated, feared, and now apparently being enforced to keep Mnangagwa in power beyond that constitutional limit. To extend his tenure past 2028 and into 2030 and potentially beyond. And CAB3, the constitutional amendment that Zimbabwe has been fighting over for weeks, is the legal vehicle being used to make that extension possible. Now connect those dots. Mnangagwa looked at that agenda, the plan to rewrite the constitution to keep his uncle in power past the legal deadline. And he said no. Or at minimum, he did not say yes loudly enough. He did not align. He did not bend the knee. And the response from the party was swift, brutal, and according to people close to the proceedings, predetermined. The word predetermined. Let that sit with you for a moment. It means the outcome of his disciplinary hearing was decided before the hearing began. That the process, the committee, the deliberations, the formal procedures was theater. A performance of due process wrapped around a decision that had already been made. The hearing was convened in the Midlands. Mnangagwa's own political heartland, chaired by Louis Matutu, with committee members Maud Ngwenya, Cornelius Mupereri, Mazivas Voze, and Maxwell Mataranyika present. And the official conclusion of that committee was that Mnangagwa had failed to align himself with the province's ethos, principles, conduct, and aspirations. Ethos, principles, conduct, aspirations. 4 words that sound institutional, that sound formal, that sound like a legitimate disciplinary finding. But peel back that language, and what they are actually saying is simpler and far more alarming. He did not support the 2030 plan. So he is out. Spearheading this entire process was Justice Minister Ziyambi, a man who holds two powerful positions simultaneously, Minister of Justice and ZANU PF Secretary for Legal Affairs. The same man who has been the public face of the legal maneuvers to amend Zimbabwe's constitution. The same man at the heart of the push to make CAB 3 a reality. Ziyambi is the legal architect of the 2030 agenda. And now he is also the man who processed the expulsion of a person who would not support it. The enforcer of the plan, removing those who oppose the plan. In one man, holding two offices, serving one agenda. Now, here is what should make every Zimbabwean and every Southern African watching this story go completely cold. Emmerson Mnangagwa is not a street activist. He is not an opposition figure. He is not someone who campaigned against ZANU PF from outside the party. He is not a journalist or a civil society leader or a diaspora critic. His family, literally. He shared a home with the president when both of them lived in Zambia. He served the CIO, the intelligence arm of the very state that Mnangagwa leads. If the 2030 agenda is powerful enough to override that, if blood ties and intelligence service and decades of proximity to power are not enough to protect a man from being purged, then what exactly does safety look like inside ZANU PF right now? The answer that ZANU PF insiders are sitting with tonight is deeply uncomfortable. There is no safety, not anymore. Not for anyone who will not publicly, loudly, unconditionally commit to extending Mnangagwa's rule beyond its constitutional limit. The ideological purity test has only one question now, and the question is not about Zimbabwe's development, not about liberation struggle values, not about economic recovery or national unity. The only question that matters inside ZANU PF in this moment is this: do you support 2030? And if your answer is anything other than an unqualified, enthusiastic yes, Emmerson Mnangagwa's fate is a preview of your own. Inside Zimbabwe, this expulsion is sending shockwaves through ZANU PF structures that people on the outside cannot fully see. Because every member of that party who has had private reservations about CAB 3, who has whispered doubts about the 2030 agenda, who has sat in a meeting and stayed quiet instead of applauding loudly enough, they are all reading this story about Mnangagwa. And they are all asking themselves the same question: am I next? That is how political purges work. They do not need to touch everyone. They only need to touch one person visibly enough that everyone else recalibrates their behavior immediately. Mnangagwa is that one person. His expulsion is not just a punishment for one man's dissent. It is a message to every man and woman inside ZANU PF who might be thinking about dissenting. We expelled the president's nephew. We expelled a CIO veteran. We expelled someone who lived in the same house as Emmerson Mnangagwa. What do you think we will do to you? Regionally, this development is being read as confirmation that the 2030 agenda is not a rumor, not speculation, not political gossip being amplified by opposition voices. It is real, it is being enforced, and the enforcement has already begun. Not with words, with consequences. Zimbabwe's civil society, its legal community, and its opposition structures now have concrete evidence that the constitutional amendment process, CAB3, the extended terms, the restructured succession rules, is directly connected to one goal: keeping Mnangagwa in power past 2028. And anyone inside the party who will not help make that happen, regardless of their name, their background, their blood relationship to the president will be removed.